Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things I have learned as I have grown into the person that I am today. And I brought both of the Melody Beatty books with me today, so I thought that we would start with one of those and just kind of see where the world takes us today in this video. I think I'm going to actually start with Journey to the Heart, unless the meditation is completely unfitting to anything that I want to talk about. So let's go in here and see. It is November 16th. Let's get into this. November 16th, it's safe to open your heart. I also have the language of letting go, but we'll see if we get to that. Okay, it's safe to open your heart. You don't have to be so afraid to love. You don't have to fear losing your soul. You learned that lesson. It's in the past. That doesn't mean that people won't try to control or manipulate you. Doesn't mean that at times you won't try to control or manipulate them. Doesn't mean that people with problems, agendas, addictions, and issues won't sometimes come into your life. They may. But the lessons of the past are yours to keep. It may take you a moment to remember, but you will. Be gentle with yourself. Open up slowly, carefully, as you're able. It's not that life and people are different. Although how we see life and view people probably has changed. We're different. We've learned about our powers. We've learned to take care of ourselves. We've learned how capable we really are. Don't be so afraid to love. Now it's time to learn about the powers of the heart. Wow, I love that. You know, I just kind of go with my mind when I talk about these meditations and what I gain from them. And it's interesting because yesterday my cousin Caroline, hi cousin Caroline, we had brunch with a family friend of ours. Caroline keeps in touch with her quite often because she was my aunt and uncle's best friend. She and her husband were my aunt and uncle's best friends. And but she was really close with my mom and my dad as well. Mostly my mom. And was like in the room when my mom passed away. She and her husband and things like that. They're very, very close family friends. So we had lunch with her yesterday. It was really nice to see her and catch up with her and stuff. But when we were leaving, we were talking to her and about her wedding anniversary and stuff. And she said, you know, we've been married 63 years. And I was like, 63 years, like that is crazy, you know, to be married to somebody for 63 years. And I said to her, I think in those situations, I'm usually drawn to questions like, well, what's the trick to making a marriage last? Or, you know, what is the trick to getting through the hard times? I think I've kind of learned that, in all honesty. You know, I think I've learned that it's not just about marriage counseling, it's what you take from marriage counseling. You know, I've learned to have to trust my husband implicitly, not just trust him. Like when people say trust, we're talking about actions often, right? Like trusting them in what they're going to do or things like that. But I'm talking about trusting them with feelings of ours and having conversations and communicating them about, you know, not maybe getting our needs met or, you know, needing this or needing that from the relationship. I think that's probably one of the greatest things I've learned from marriage counseling and learning to talk to my husband more, you know, is that previously it was easier for me to talk to my best friend or my friends and be like, oh, like, you know, I'm having a fight with my husband or, you know, my husband's driving me crazy or whatever, which I think is natural and part of having friendships. I think we go to our friendships and our friends and we complain about relationships. I think that's normal. I think that's natural, you know. I think my husband probably does the same thing with his friends from time to time. I think the thing is, when we have those conversations with our friends and we take to them issues that we have with our partner, you know, and this can extend past romantic relationships too. This could be relationships we have with our parents, relationships we have with our kids, relationships we have with our siblings, relationships that we have with other friends, things like that. I think in the past I tended to go to other people and have those conversations without opening my heart up, like this meditation was talking about, to love. And part of love is being open-minded, trusting that other person enough to feel comfortable to come to them and say, this is how I'm feeling, this is what I'm going through, I need to share this with you, I'm angry about this, I'm upset about this, or my feelings are hurt about this, or whatever, and taking that to that other person, you know? I think it's interesting when we talk about trust. I think the immediate thing that people go to, right, is, you know, because you'll always say, well, if you're going to be in a relationship, you have to trust people. I've been in a lot of relationships, platonic friendships, romantic relationships in my past where I did not trust the person. I don't necessarily think that you have to have trust to be in a relationship. That being said, I think that if you don't have trust in that relationship, that's not going to be a quality relationship. You're not going to get from that relationship what you need or what you desire. I think to implicitly, blind faith, trust somebody in a relationship, for many of us that have been very, very hurt in past relationships, I think it's very, very difficult. You know, I've been very hurt in past relationships. So for me to just walk into a relationship and be like, yep, I trust you 100%, whether that's a friendship or a romantic relationship, isn't going to happen. I think it's the actions that we talk about. Like when you're in a romantic relationship, I think we talk so much about you have to trust that person, you know, and if you don't trust them, that's on you, that's not on them. And, you know, why are you a trusting person? And like, I think immediately our minds go to, you know, like trusting that person, like their actions, like, are they going to cheat? Are they going to hurt us? Are they going to do this? Or going to do that? You know, are they going to take money from us? If you've been in past relationships where money has been an issue, or, you know, like, are they going to leave? If we're people that have like suffered from abandonment issues and things like that, trust like extends into those. It's action, right? What I think really for me, the starting of trusting people, not just my husband, but really trust was really about me, but really trust was about talking to those people and being willing to open up to them about, like, you can tell I'm like thinking through this as I'm saying it, right? Opening up to them about what my feelings were, you know, being allowing myself to be vulnerable enough to open myself up to them. Now, in relationships that I don't have in my life anymore, I would come to kind of like this fork in the road where I knew there were things I needed to talk about with them. I didn't trust that that conversation would go well. I didn't trust myself in that conversation. I didn't trust that they would hear the conversation well. I just didn't trust being able to share with that other person what I needed to say to them. And ultimately what that came down to was I didn't trust that person. In inventory and evaluation, working with my sponsor, working with my therapist and things like that, I had to look at where was that lack of trust coming from. Okay, was it just that I'm not a trusting person? Because 20 years ago, I think that would have been a fair statement. I'm just not a trusting person. I don't trust anyone. Everybody's out to screw you. I don't believe that today. I think there are, in all honesty, I think there are by far more good people out there that you can trust than people that are trying to screw you. That's just what I have found in this world, right? So 20 years ago, I think my attitude would have been, people are untrustworthy, can't trust anybody. You know, men are untrustworthy. I've been in all these relationships. Men screw you over time and time again, right? Like that was my attitude. That was my mantra. And looking at that and looking at my action and that, what I realized was that a lot of my inability to trust somebody else was really about me. It was really about the trauma that I had gone through in my childhood, my attachment issues, my abandonment issues, my feeling like, based on actions that had happened to me in my past, that I couldn't trust people, whatever. Now, those people had done that to me. What I did with that was stop trusting everyone, okay? I missed out on a lot of really glorious opportunities in my life. Bit by bit, I had to start overcoming that a little bit. Bit by bit, I had to start trusting somebody. That didn't mean that if I saw red flags, I didn't bolt immediately. That didn't mean that once I met somebody as a friend or, you know, even family members or, you know, I really haven't had that issue with family members so much, but I would say with romantic partners or friends, when I would meet somebody, you know, I can remember back in the day, like dating people, like when I was like dating, like long before my, you know, relationships and stuff like that. I could immediately just like tell, like, if this is somebody that I would like just lay it all out there for and just like, hey, let me just like word vomit all over you about what's going on, or no, I just didn't feel that vulnerable with them. I didn't feel like they were a safe place to land. The one thing in my relationship with Alex is there have been moments in my relationship where I haven't trusted him, but and not in the last couple years, but I always felt like he was a safe place to land. Like I always felt like I could open up and be vulnerable to him, and he would be the pillow to land on, if that makes sense. Like I always felt that about him. I did for a long time in my past relationship, and then when we started growing apart, I no longer felt like he was that for me, and in all honesty, I don't think I was that for him anymore either. So it was a joint situation that was going on there. It was mutual, you know, where we weren't each other's person anymore for each other, which I think is scary. I think for me, it's about trusting my partner with those vulnerable moments. not just going to my friend and saying, I'm so upset about this, but making sure that, and what I try to do today is, I try to go to my sponsor first to say, how should I say this? What do I want to say? And, you know, she'll say, I'm not a marriage counselor, so go to your marriage counselor if it gets that deep, right? But, you know, I'll take things to her and she'll say things like, hey, like, I think you got a lot in this. Like, this is your part. Maybe you need to go to Alex and you need to say, hey, babe, like, this is my part. I'm really sorry that, you know, we disagreed about this, and take ownership over it. Or she'll say, just talk to Alex. Just take it to him and be like, babe, this hurt my feelings that you said this. He might not even realize they said it. You know, often I was going to say all the time, but this doesn't happen all the time anymore between us, but it did. I would take things to Alex and I would say, this really hurt my feelings. I'm more sensitive than Alex is, you know? And he would say, I don't even know what you're talking. Did I say that? And I'm like, yeah. And I mean, it was something that I had been holding on to for days. And he'd be like, I don't even remember that I said that, but babe, I'm so sorry if I did. I didn't mean it that way. Or, you know, it was just off the cuff and, you know, we were arguing or whatever, which is not an excuse, but it makes sense, right? I think sometimes it's not about the excuse, it's about walking inside somebody else's shoes and understanding that moment. You know, I was somebody in my youth that would hold on to an argument and a grudge and a resentment like nobody's business. When I realized that, you know, it's like the whole idea, I've said this before, that, you know, first you start having the fight, and then the fight starts having you with your partner, and then you forget kind of what the fight's about. You know, the fight will start on like a Wednesday or a Thursday about like, you know, you forgot to take the trash out, and then it's about, well, where do you want to go to dinner tonight? I don't care, you pick. No, you pick. No, you pick. And then by Sunday it's, you don't care about me anymore, you don't trust me, you don't love me, we should break up. I've been in those relationships before. They're so unhealthy, right? And the majority of the issue was me. It wasn't the other person, it was me. Well, in the world that I live in today, I have to take a look at who I am, you know, my behaviors and my actions in that situation, not just pointing the finger at somebody else. So what I try to do today is I try to go to my sponsor, or, you know, I'm not a big journaler, but like writing it down a little bit and looking at it, you know, or talking to my therapist about it. One of the things that we started to do in therapy was that if I or Alex feel like we have an issue now that we want to bring up in marriage counseling, we take it to our therapist first in our individual sessions and say, like, is this something that you think we need to bring up? Or because like it'll end up being like, you know, a half an hour conversation, or do you think that this is something that like is more about me? And our therapist is very good with that. Like, I mean, I just brought something to him, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, and he was like, what's going on with you? This is about you. This has nothing to do with Alex. And I was like, okay, so I shouldn't bring it up in therapy. He goes, no, I don't think this is a couples thing, but what's going on with you? Like, we need to talk about this, right? And so we talked about it, and it was kind of related to my OCD and stuff like that, but it was really, really helpful to me, you know? And I think when we talk about having open communication in relationships, not just romantic relationships, but, you know, saying things to people, and like, you know, for example, with a friend of mine that I was having a conversation with the other day, we had talked to like 2 or 3 days in a row. This is a friend I rarely talk about in videos, and like I talked to her and she just seemed completely off to me, and I was like, did I say something? Is she upset with me? Something I couldn't read the situation. So then the second time I talked to her, the second day in a row, she still seemed kind of off, and I said, hey, I'm worried about you. Like, you seem off. Is something going on? And she was like, no, why would you say that? She's like, I'm not off at all. Like, you know, I mean, I've just got a lot of stuff going on right now, but no, like, I'm not off at all. And I was like, okay, well, I'm just kind of worried about you. Well, the third time I talked to her, third day in a row, or I don't know, it was over 4 days or 5 days or something like that, she was a completely different person. And I go, you are so funny and laughing and like jovial tonight and you know, funny and whatever. I said, what happened? And she was like, I wasn't really in a space to talk about it, but you were absolutely right and whatever, and I wasn't doing okay, and like, I don't really want to talk about it right now, but let me tell you what was going on. And then she did, and then she was like, and I feel much better now because it's kind of resolved, you know? I want to have those relationships with people in my life. I want to go to them and say, hey, I'm worried about you, or you said this and this hurt my feelings, or did I say this and did I hurt your feelings? Or to my husband, like, I need more of this, or he'll say to me, I need more of that, you know? Like, those are the conversations that I want to have with the people in my life. I want to have rich relationships with people in my life. Trusting people isn't just about trusting their actions or what they're going to do or not do. It's trusting them implicitly to be able to have open, trusting conversations with them, and allowing ourselves to be vulnerable with that person. And ultimately, that's about us. You know, I think one thing I would say to anybody out there, because I know there's that one person that's gritting their teeth and being like, no, I can't do it. I was somebody that would allow myself to be vulnerable and would get burnt again. allowed myself to be vulnerable, and got burnt again by person after person after person. Then I started meeting people like Tanya, like Alex, like my ex, you know, like my sponsor, like my past sponsors that I could trust, that didn't burn me, you know, and I had to start realizing there are good people out there, you know, that not every person out there is trying to hurt you, you know. It's kind of like I had to get back on the horse again, you know, and learn to ride and realize that there are trustworthy people out there. I don't want to miss out on life because I've been burnt so bad and I'm so stuck to that wound, and you know, that I'm not willing to go out there and put my trust in somebody else again. I want people in my life, and I think there was a huge period in my life long before I ever got on YouTube where I was just closing out everybody because I just was like, nobody's trustworthy anymore. I don't ever want to get to that place again. That's a lonely place to be, you know, when you feel like you can only trust yourself. Then you start questioning, can I even trust myself? You know, like I don't even know what I think anymore, and did I misjudge all these rules? And then it's like too much, right? There are good people out there. There's a lot of really good people out there, you know, and that's one of the things that I've learned. So allow yourself to be vulnerable, but beware of red flags when you see them. Be cautious of them, you know. Bring them up to that person if you see a red flag and be like, you know, this is kind of a red flag to me. Can you explain to me this? Like, you know, like, okay, like in my past, like one of the things to me that was always like a sign was like when I would schedule things to do with somebody and then at the last minute they would cancel, right? And it hurt my feelings a lot. I'm somebody that, like, if I plan something, I get very excited about it. And I had a friend of mine that, you know, like, it happened numerous times. This is years and years and years ago. So for me, that would be a red flag, right? So if somebody, like, canceled at the last moment on me, the first time I probably wouldn't say anything. The second time I probably would say, you know, it kind of hurts my feelings, to be honest with you, that you canceled on me at the last moment. Not once, but twice now. Like, this is something that has hurt me in the past with other people. Like, is this consistent with you? Or, I'm just being honest with you. Like, I'm just bringing it to you. Like, is this consistent with you that you cancel on people at the last minute? Or, no, like this, I absolutely, I had two things I had to do. It won't happen again. Okay. If it happens the third time, it's probably not a relationship I'm going to invest myself in. I've been burnt on that in the past. I'm not going to have people that cancel on me left and right. I just don't want that in my life. That's where I have to be kind of careful of the red flags going forward and stuff like that. But I don't want to not ever trust anybody again because I want people in my life, you know? People make my life priceless today. And my experiences with other people bring joy to my life, you know? So anyway, let me know what you think about all that in the comment section below. I love you guys so much, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.